girls came out in droves, then the guys came out. Whatever it was nothing like this. People came to this party to be advertised to. This is pre-Facebook, pre-social media.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's a great idea, flipping an industry on its forehead, per se. Like,
Throw a kick-ass party.
Huge.
You actually made some money for charity.
100% to charity. That's how we started.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so what happened was, keep your feet moving forward. Don't stop.
From his startup experience working as CEO with Unity Charity to CEO at Cognitive Marketing.
And now CEO at Optimy, Josh Singer is constantly expanding his limits.
Optimy, why did you start a tech company?
That's a good question. So what we're doing is simple. Customers prefer because they get their answers immediately in the way that they want. They're making their decisions online. Keep moving forward.
I think it's such simple but great advice.
Well, I'd be interested from your perspective. Can you answer questions?
Yeah, I can. We can do whatever we want.
What has been the greatest
The sickness that drives you to do more and achieve and move the bar every single time?
I don't think there's anyone I know that has found a meaningful success without putting in the effort. So when people feel tired, feel stressed, it's like, great, that means you're probably on a path moving in that direction. Because if it was really easy, you're probably could do more than you think you're doing. And it's like, by the way, this stress is never gonna go.
I love that. And I love your point about my buddy, Josh Singer. Thanks for coming on today, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you making the trip down to the lovely Niagara here above the Circle K gas station.
Hey, wouldn't have it any other way. It's got to be in person, and great to see you.
It's awesome. Okay, you are the founder and chairperson of the board, Cognitive Marketing, one of Canada's largest face-to-face direct selling companies, founder and CEO of Optimy, which we're going to talk about later, an AI live chat platform tech company. Your husband and a relatively new father to a beautiful little how old now? 9 months? No.
10 months.
10
now,
months.
Yeah.
Baby Reese.
Yeah.
Precious. You and I met, I had to look back. It was 2012. Through Entrepreneurs Organization, Forum Group, and 12 years later. What's my math?
Wow. Yeah, 12 years.
It's crazy.
Hey, it's felt like 30.
I agree. I think that's a good thing, right?
No, it's been great.
But no, it's awesome. It's been cool watching each other, in business and family and all aspects of life. So absolute pleasure to have you down. So I'm excited for today. You are, I talk about you a lot, and you've helped so many people in my life, including my nephew and other people. You're an amazing connector, but your energy is crazy. And that's one thing, like if I ever have moments where I'm like, damn, I don't know what to do, I'm like, I'll just call Josh. Like you have this infectious enthusiasm.
100%.
You bring so much energy to everything you do.
Yeah.
Where did you get that?
I don't know. I think I was just born with it, truthfully. That's just something, I think I'm just born with it. I know that when I was a little baby, I used to cry all the time, like nonstop.
Really?
Yeah. My full name, no, I think I just wanted stuff and
you're just raring to go.
So my name is Joshua. I go by Josh, but my family calls me Wah Wah. Because Joshua, they kind of created this nickname off it because all I would do is cry all the time. I was like, wah!
Maybe that was just you, your energy levels, because that's all you could say.
And I was just doing it. And even now, I look at it like I love riling up kids. I love riling up dogs, getting that energy going. To get people, I like that element of stuff happening.
Yeah.
So it's just, honestly, I just think I'm born with it. And I think I've always been that way. Yeah.
How's that helped you through business?
Well, I think what helps is, where I feel like I'm good at is getting stuff going and getting stuff off the ground. So creating an energy, a movement around something. Like when you don't have anything, it's pre-product, pre-company, there's literally nothing. There's no energy. It's an idea. So there is some energy around an idea, but then how do you get people interested in it? How do you get people moving in a direction? There's momentum. And I think that I could act as a sun and bring in different planets around it because of the energy that I put in or get people going, right? So I think energy, I know there's been people who say people get caught up in your energy because there's energy there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I think that's
sure.
probably been pretty helpful.
I've been a beneficiary of that for a long time.
There you go.
That's cool. Born and raised in Toronto.
Yeah.
Take me back to childhood. What are some moments you remember growing up?
Oh God, My brother's gonna get pissed off.
Nothing incriminating.
That's hilarious. Okay, so I'll say this. Okay, it's gonna sound really bad at first, and then I'm gonna explain it afterwards. One of my early childhood memories is hitting my brother in the lip with a baseball bat. That sounds really bad. He had to go to the hospital. It was.
Yes.
However,
it was an accident.
100% an accident.
Okay.
What happened was I was playing t-ball, and he was there, and I'm a lefty. And when he got a little close. When I swung through on the backswing, it hit him. He started bawling. My parents came out, yelled at me. They were so angry. But it was an accident. And they literally, I don't remember how young I was, but they left me on my own crying. They took me to the hospital. I was there myself. Like 2 hours later, 3 hours later, however long it was, they come back.
Still crying.
That was my memory that was one of my earlier memories. But anyways, yeah, as a kid, I was I was the middle child, and I would beat up my younger brother.
That explains everything, Josh. The middle, no, just
right,
kidding.
100%. I feel guilty about that. Like my two brothers, I have two brothers. We get along great. But when we were younger, it was like 3 boys. My parents were separated, so there wasn't like overly tight supervision because there was always only one parent with us at any given time. Right? Like my mom,
for sure.
If I'm at my mom's house, there's her against 3 kids. If it's at dad's house, him against 3 kids. So there's only so much. So anyways, it was probably a wild house. Like I've apologized to my mom 1,000 times. She's like, oh, I loved it. It was so great. I'm like, Mom,
she's
I feel
lying
so bad.
and she
now that I'm
forgot
a
the
parent,
trauma,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh my God, like that must
Oh
be
yeah.
tough. But anyways, so it was actually a great childhood. Like, I don't have any real negative memories. Like even that isn't necessarily a negative memory. It just was a memory. So it's pretty normal. Like I grew up in suburbs, just, doing our thing, played lots of sports, video games.
Normal childhood stuff.
Yeah.
When was the first memory of an entrepreneurial experience for you?
I wonder if it was, I guess it was starting my first company in high school, though. I don't remember anything prior to high school.
Yeah, I mean, most kids start a company in high school, so that's normal. No.
Right, yeah.
So let's talk about it.
So what happened was I was applying to all these jobs, and I got Shoppers Drug Mart, and I got Cineplex, right? So I was, I think, 15 at the time.
Okay.
And
this is your first job? First potential job.
First potential job. So I get the interviews, and they didn't hire me, both of them. And I'm just like, oh my God, like the 2 companies that basically will hire anyone that applies. And I'm like, what is going on here?
All of my friends got jobs there.
And then I was speaking to a friend in the high school walk, like whatever you call it, hallway. And he's like, yeah, I'm starting a gardening company. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. Like, maybe I'll do that. And anyways, I'm just like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing this summer. So I started my first gardening company.
Well, what'd you call it?
First lawn I cut.
Did you have a name?
I called, 2 names. The first year, I did it on my own.
Okay.
We only had 4 customers. It's called Student Gardeners. The next year, I got 2 partners. We called it Ace Gardening.
Nice.
Yeah.
How much did you charge for a day?
We were charging at that time $80 a month, $60 to $80 a month just to mow your lawn. First lawn I ever cut, so never cut a lawn before. So what I'm saying is, I became a gardener to go cut lawns.
So you're entrepreneurial.
Never cut a lawn. Maybe my stepdad showed me one time, mow our lawn as practice. So, anyways, first lawn I cut. The lawnmower, it was my stepdad's, so it was like a piece of junk. It could barely work. And the grass was high. The thing was getting slowed down. Like it was struggling to cut the lawn because it's so high. So I raised the lawnmower so it's at a higher level just so it could make it through. And I end up mowing and just clipping the side of a fire hydrant. There's that little part that sticks out.
Yeah.
Because the thing was raised, it ended up going slightly over it, completely busted the lawn right there.
Oh, no.
First lawn I ever cut, swear to God. I destroyed the lawnmower. I had to go out and buy another lawnmower.
Good start.
Yeah, so that was my first start.
But you made it first year, you get partners.
So the
second
first year, first year we had 4, and then I said, okay, like I want to make something of it. So I had 2 partners, and our goal is to make something more of it. Now, I was still 15 at the time. I couldn't drive, so we wanted to go bigger. So I got 2 partners who could drive, like they were of the legal age because they turned 16 earlier in the year than me. And we ended up getting around 30, 35 customers that year, which was pretty good.
That's awesome. What was the requirements? Must drive and have a lawnmower or have cut grass
once?
once?
Be a friend of mine. No lawn mowing experience required.
Got it.
Right. And anyway, so that was great. Fair. It was a great summer. Like that was like working pretty full time. And then the third year, I ended up, like one of them ended up kind of taking a job in that summer. And then it was me and the other guy. And then as we're going in the next year, it's like, yeah, I don't know if this is my thing or whatever. So I got 2 other partners, and that's where we got a truck, a trailer. We started having a crew of employees, and we got up to 90 customers that year 3. That was while we're still in high school. So we're mowing 90 lawns a week.
So you're making, how much are you taking home?
Not that much, truthfully. Like, honestly, I don't even remember, but like it was good cash for a high school kid. Like it was more than what I would make at a McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, but like it was not, like I was not rolling in the dough.
That's a great experience though.
Right?
Yeah, you were doing fine.
Yeah.
So fast forward to university.
Yeah.
You start up another sort of party planning, not really, well, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So what happened was that business took it into university, the first gardening business. And then I got to Frosh Week. And it was all about partying and drinking and girls and all that stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want to have to drive home and cut lawns. Like, I want to stay here and party. The partying's way more fun than cutting lawns. Yes. So school started in September. That lawn season ended in like, call it November, December. And then I went and we ended up selling the business because we're like, I just don't want to do this. Like, I'd rather be downtown having fun.
How much did you sell it for?
Honestly, we probably sold it. My guess is like 30 grand. I think we got 10 grand each or something. It was nothing.
That's still
like,
great, though.
We sold, basically the guy's like, for every customer that stays on, I'll pay you Y bucks, whatever it was. Like, it was not.
You just sold the customer list.
That's basically what we did. And I think he took some of the lawn stuff, some of the other lawnmower stuff we had to sell afterwards, whatever. So we did that. And then I took a job for the first summer after that, and it was like a great co-op job. You get paid very well, and I was bored to death, and I had no stress after work, and that was not me. I realized that like my
what was the job?
It was at Canadian Tire.
Okay.
I remember my boss was real, and I'm not going to mention his name, but really successful right now in marketing in the Canadian industry, and he was a marketing manager at the time, and when we were brought on, there was a program called Gas for Life.
Okay.
And there was these cards you scratch and you fill up gas, or you buy like anything from the inside store. You scratch it and you could win like Gas for Life or free chips or whatever.
Yeah.
We had to count the cards. That's it. We had to count them and sort them based on free this, nothing, like free that. And it was like a month in or like 3 weeks in, and my boss goes to me, he says, Josh, slow down. These cards got to last you all summer. That's what he said.
No
like,
way.
This was your job for the summer. And I said to him, I'm not going to say the first name, but I said to him, blank, you better find me other work because I'm not doing this all summer, and I'm going to go quick. So
union shop you're in.
Go find me other work because that's my personality, right? And it wasn't like there wasn't any animosity around it, but it was like, I'm not counting cards all summer. Like, this is brutal. It's boring. And I want to get shit done. Like, I'm not the person that's be like, oh, cool, I could get paid for doing nothing. It's like, no, I'm doing shit. Go find shit for me to do. So anyways, that's when I realized that corporate wasn't for me, just because I liked the pressure. I was more energized from the pressure and having to think about things after work. Was this literally work was done. There was no worrying about anything. So I started a landscaping company. The first company did monthly lawn maintenance.
Okay.
Second company did lawn enhancement, so fertilizing, seeding, making your lawn look beautiful and keeping it beautiful, putting in new sod, stuff like that. Did that for a year, and that's when the third, and this is where like current company started, was on the side of all that, I was throwing parties for my frat. And one time we got a makeup company to sponsor it and basically just give away free makeup for free. It was a charity event.
Okay.
So like, yeah, we'll support charity. We'll give free makeup. So they gave a lot of free makeup away at this event. And like girls came out in droves. I mean, the guys came out, and it was like such a successful party. It was more than double the size of our next biggest party we had ever thrown.
And was anyone doing something similar, other frats, or you guys kind of created a new path for this?
Yeah. First ones. I was speaking to a friend. He's like, "Hey, we gotta get sponsors to do something." And I'm like, "Oh, this is cool." Like, and he wasn't doing. I don't know whatever he was. It was not this at all. Like, he might have been. I don't. Whatever it was nothing like this. And I'm like, "That's a great idea." Like, and then of course my friends' families, well connected with the makeup company, so that helped. And like, otherwise he wouldn't have given us the makeup for sure.
So you throw a kick-ass party.
Huge.
You actually made some money for charity.
100% to charity. And I was very frustrated because I was working day and night to promote it, to get people out. And there was a good amount of people in the frat that were helping, and there was a lot of people that were doing nothing. So it's also draining because like you're trying to rally a group of guys, help sell tickets, promote, do this that, and they just didn't care enough to do it.
They just wanted the party.
They wanted the party, but they didn't want to put in the work. Exactly.
Got it.
So that's when I'm like, oh my God. Like when I reflected on it, I'm just like, we had the best party we've ever thrown. The party was unbelievable. Like it was just insane. Like there's some lifelong memories from that party, just with friends that were like, I still talk about with
That's
my
awesome.
group of friends. Huge success. I'm like, people came to this party to be advertised to. They just don't realize it. Like how many people actually want to consume advertising. Most advertising, when you get it, you change it, you block it, you do whatever. This is pre-Facebook, pre-social media. So I'm like, let's actually start a company. It's completely separate from the frat that literally is a media company that turns nightclub parties into trade shows as a way to advertise students, where the theme of the party is all around that brand message. That's how we started.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So first year was what, 2006?
2000. So 2006, we started the company in Feb 2006. So we launched our first party would have been April, like either I think it was end of March or early April 2006.
What was your biggest contract that you remember early on? Like either biggest advertising client or?
So the first party we threw, we also got Mac to help sponsor, which was great, just giving away free stuff. We had Labatt at that one. There was nothing big from that. Like it was,
okay.
I think we had Hummer, like cologne, like give away free samples. Like we had L'Oreal Professional at that event. Like there was nothing where like we were getting a lot of money from it, right? But we realized at that first party that, and this was like, this party would have been like 4 times the size of like the frat party that I threw over there. So this was 4,000 people. But the reality is that first party, we wanted to get 8,000. We only got 4,000. So it still seemed like a great party.
Big
goals. But it was
goals.
half of, this is what I'm saying. I threw a 1,200 person party, which is over double the 500 that we had previously done as our next biggest one. And I said, let's do 8,000. Where did I get the number from? I don't know. So 4,000 felt just as much as a failure as it did a success. Didn't make that much money. And so then we had...
Did you cover costs?
We did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a loss, but you learned some lessons along the way.
100%, right? And I was still in school then, but that's when I was graduating. So we set up, I think we threw one more at the beginning of the school year, the following year in September. And that's when we kind of like reflected, we're putting all this effort into throwing these parties, but it's easier and you make more money off the sponsors. So we said, rather than be the person that throws the party, which is a lot of effort, let's actually just be the promotional marketing company behind it and give them access to campus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who was the company you were looking at as far as they're doing it, they're the biggest, they're the best, or we want to be where they are, or we want to beat them?
In terms of doing what we're doing?
Yeah, competition at the time. Who did you look at,
None.
if anyone?
Didn't have any idea.
You
Swear
just
to God.
said we're going to go do it.
You're talking about for the throwing the parties?
Sorry, no, Cognitive, when you're starting out. Yeah.
Oh, honestly, well, when we started, there wasn't really that much. Like, there was a company called Seagull Communications that might have had some brand ambassador programs. They were way bigger, and I didn't really see them on campus as like a competition. So I felt like that's kind of like our first client in that brand marketing space was Rogers. At the time, Facebook didn't exist. If you want to get onto campus, you kind of have to be on campus. Like, there wasn't digital marketing. So they only worked with us not because of our experience, because there really wasn't any. They worked with us because if they wanted to be on campus,
You were the guys.
we were the guys to help them do it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you ever think the company would be where it is today at that time?
Truthfully, I did. Like, when I first, and again, like, if you think about like the 8,000 person event, it's like, oh, our first event is going to be 8 times larger than any event we've ever thrown, which only been able to throw one like at that size. I like had these astronomical growth where it was like we're doubling every year from here. And there's points where we had doubled 3 years in a row from the previous year's numbers. But I probably would have had us here maybe 7 years earlier than we were. When we've actually got here, though, it's like, wow, we actually, like, it feels like a real company. Like, we're actually doing well. Like, we're doing the things we say. It feels different. Like, what I'm saying is, in my head, a vision of like, oh, I'm going to do this. It's very different in your head, this, than like this, you know, when you feel it. And it's a pretty good feeling that we actually got here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, I'll never forget, one of the things you would say is, I want to be $1 billion company.
Right.
And a few coaches going, why, Josh? Tell me more.
Couldn't give that
No
answer,
answer.
right? It was just like, there's this ego side of, if it can be done, I'm going to be the one to do it. Why? Because it can be done. So, of course, I'm going to do it because I'm me. That's the ego talk. I mean, that's where these ramped up. Like, there's a lot of, like, testosterone in that, you know, we're going to get to $1 billion, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
How have you changed over the years from there
Well,
to now?
so what I would say is one of my greatest changes, and there's still opportunity on it, but like, I would have been like a madman in the office, because when things don't go according to plan, I'm on it, and like, I could be aggressive, I could have condescending tones. So like, when things don't go great, which happen all the time, it's not, you know, like, I was like Steve Jobs, except nowhere near the success level, right? It's like Steve Jobs, he even got fired from his company, right?
Sure.
For being like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And he had built Apple up to that point already, which is still pretty massive.
But was generally an asshole still.
Right. So that was like, and honestly, I knew it. Like, I would go into a meeting being like, I'm going to be calm. And then something happens, and then boom. Like, and it wasn't like horrendous, but it was like, it wasn't nice. Like, condescending tone, like.
Did you want
aggressive.
to be something different, but just couldn't do it at the time?
Couldn't. And that's where, and it was like 6 years, but like finally, like, again, with enough coaching, therapy, you name it, like cult courses, got to a point where like legitimately, like, people are like, Josh, you're completely different than you used to be, right? And it still shows up little bits and pieces in certain areas, but at a ridiculously subdued amount to what it was before. Like, ridiculous. So, yeah, that's what I'd say is that was probably the biggest change in terms of that. There's not a need to, like, get to $1 billion per se or whatever. Like, I currently feel I have more than enough of what I need. It doesn't mean I don't want more. And like, I could live today, not work another day, and have more than enough money for me and likely my family. And yet, I still feel a little unsafe with that. Like, what I'm saying is, could I really? Am I sure? Like, is this actually enough? Like, there's still, it's like, logically, I feel like I can, but emotionally, I don't fully feel that safe yet. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, that piece sounds like it's still driving you.
There's an element of that is, but it's a lot. It's less of a, I need to be this big or whatever. Because what I'm saying is there is a realization that I don't need anymore. And there's a realization of balance and, like, not everything's about work or achieving this accomplishment or being the richest person in the world or whatever. So it's just more of what's more enjoyable, what's more authentic.
Do you think that's a common trait in entrepreneurs? Having that piece that it's fine and you've done great work and accomplished this, but at the same token, this sickness that drives you to do more and achieve and move the bar every single time?
100%. I truthfully, and you were talking to me before we started this about golf, right? One of the reasons I like golf, though, is I like constantly learning and growing. So if they're, like, what I'm saying is that was part of the thing with the work at Canadian Tire head office. There was none of that happening there, right? Learning and growing is a project to me, and I find it fun because you try something, does it work, does it not work, and the challenge of trying to figure this thing out. Golf is a project just like that, just like work or growing a company or whatever. Now, as I'm maturing, maybe I start evolving to not necessarily being the CEO, but supporting the CEO, similar to what you're doing now, right? Or maybe for me, it might be more of an investor, but not necessarily a money-hungry investor, which is all about the returns. More like, I'm going to invest in you and your business. I'm going to make money because the better your business does, I'm a shareholder. But I want you to have a holistic, great life, and I want to support you at work and out of work. I could see myself evolving there from the operator where I'm at right now. Like, I'm in one of our companies, which right now it's one large company. We have two divisions that are run like two separate sub-companies.
Yeah, so let's go over to Kognitive because you brought in a CEO, Eugene.
Yes.
Had a chance to meet him. He's amazing. And you've created this awesome leadership team around you.
Yeah.
And the company's done better than it's ever done with you not in charge.
100%. Yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels fantastic, actually. Most people, I don't know, like, I think the biggest problem for people would be is, like, if they think that someone is doing it better than them, like, they might get scared, like, oh, what does that mean about me? Whereas I'm just more like I'm doing less work and making more money, right? And Eugene is legitimately doing a better job than I could have done doing it myself. So it actually feels, I swear, it feels unbelievable. Like, it is a great feeling. I had to be ready for that. When I hired him, we hired him as a VP, but we told him when we hired him, hey, within a couple of years, because the thought was already in the back of my mind, like, you could be promoted to president. So that was the plan from when we were recruiting. And that has been fantastic. And I actually think it's my most enjoyable role is working with him in the fashion that we work, more so than me operating the startup that we're in now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think, similar times, I don't know when, I think you did it before we did, but, similar experiences. We brought on Mark, our now CEO, as a VP, learn each other, see the experience and what they can bring to the table. And it didn't take long to, for Sean and I to go, hey, this guy's probably going to do better than us. And I think it's a humble thing to be able to do that. I'm not saying I'm humble, but I think for companies that recognize that there's a skill set and an energy level and certain requirements that some people have, and to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to move aside and create space and opportunity for them. And then for you as the entrepreneur, you've spun out this incredible new venture because of that, or in addition to that.
Wouldn't have been around had we not. So that's the great thing, is there is more value created for everyone. The other thing is, what I would say is, I couldn't see it myself. There's a risk, right? So what I'm saying is, it's part of it is our growth had stalled, right? Mm-hmm. And we tried all these different things eventually, and you're aware of this, but like, I had 2 business partners, there's 3 of us in total, and we realized, like, the issue is with us. So when the dust was settled, I was the last one still there. I needed a team member. So at that point, I was also pretty burnt out from the job. So I'm like, hey, if I could hire someone, take off ops, which is like half the workload, and then eventually promote. It helps me. It creates some freedom for me. So had I been more proactive about it, and truthfully, I have a coach right now, and he's kind of like, you should probably just hire someone right now to run this business. And I'm like,
you saw my notes.
No, hey, just
Wait, when are you doing that, John? No,
right now, but maybe you should be, right? Hey, but anyway, so it's hard to see before you bring someone on. So I wasn't bringing them on necessarily for that, or like, hey, now's the time. We're already doing beyond perfect. Everything's going great. Let me hire someone to take it to the next level. It was because we were having some challenges that led to that. Now, thank God that happened, because it has set us up to being great. Once I saw him work under me, and I saw how he does great in bigger organizations. I'm more of a startup guy, so I could get things off the ground, the energy.
Sure, scrappiness.
Things out. But in a larger organization, you need to funnel communications all the way down. You need to really work to create culture, because people are 3 or 4 levels removed, versus like in a startup, people interact with you every day. The culture's naturally there. As there's more degrees of separation, how you build that out, how do you run it through is different. I was still concerned with him running the company, because he didn't have any experience running finances, HR, a bunch of these other things, because he came through one practice, which is the sales side. So he understood sales well, but he didn't do the other areas of the business. So that was a concern for me.
So what checks and balances did you put in place to give you that confidence, or was it just time in the chair for him?
My viewpoint was like, I've seen him in his role work through a budget such that I'm like, okay, and I knew that I was going to be looking at budgets, reviewing, that I could point out things to him that he might not naturally see. So like, to this day, it's been quite a few years, I still look at our daily reports. Like, I see the numbers every day.
Yeah.
I'm still getting those as if I was running the company. I don't do anything with it, but I get it. The P&Ls, monthly P&Ls, I'm getting those as well.
You get good visibility.
So I think there's that. We have a board that is there to support us. So I'm like, hey, I've never been just at a board level, because I don't know what's happening on the day to day. So people who have board experience, I help come here because they could help me. What is it like to run a board or be on a board? How do you hold someone accountable? What does that look like?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pin that one. You mentioned partnerships before. I mean, I've been in a business partnership for over 17 years.
Yeah.
They're like a marriage. They're hard.
Right.
They're difficult.
Right.
It's about communication and they tell me about some of the best things of the partnerships that you've had or the partnership, and what are some of the challenging experiences?
Right. So with what I would say is my original partners, the best thing about that, first of all, we were great friends. And we enjoyed our time together. So what was great is when we first started the company, we worked, I remember the year of 2008 when the financial crisis hit, there was a period for probably 10 or 11 months. We worked 7 days a week as long as we were awake. The only day we didn't work for, let's call it, probably 11 months was Christmas, and that's because that's the only day that retail stores were closed across the country.
Crazy.
Otherwise, we had worked, and I'm literally saying, like, I would wake up, I'd work, I'd eat lunch, I'd work, we'd eat dinner, I'd work, I'd go to sleep. That was it.
You guys went through battle
7
together.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So it was great, and we all got along. We were all focused on achieving a goal. And we just worked and we did what it takes to get it done. And because we were friends, like, okay, you take that, you take this, I'll take this. And like, things change. Okay, now we need this, so I guess it's going under you? And yeah, okay, great. And yeah, so that means, are you still doing that, or are we handing this off to someone else? And that's literally how we operated. I don't think we would have gotten it to where it was without what we had there.
The three of you,
Yeah, we had the three of us. We bickered a lot, and I think that was one of the reasons. Like, the other thing is that we were all good at the same thing. So it wasn't like, oh, one's good at sales, and one's good at finance, and one's good at customer relations, as an example. It was like we were all good at the same thing. So division of duties was difficult because we were all very similar and had a similar skill set. So I think that's why we bickered. Because, for example, if someone was good at technology and I know nothing about technology, it's not much to bicker at. They're going to make a decision on how they want to run it. The thing is, we were all trying to say how we want to run this one thing. And that's where we thought we were great at. And I think any one of us could have ran it in the way that would have worked for that person if you're running that department. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's not like you sat down when you started and said, okay, we're looking for this talent and this talent. I mean, you got together and did it.
Right, 100%. So my thing about partnerships are, I don't believe partnerships last forever. Now, they could last for an extended period of time, but I don't think they last forever. And I think you got to be okay with that. You know, when you start a family, and even today, family is like 50% divorce rate, right? But when you start a family, and it's like you're there to if you have kids, you're raising the kids together. Now, whether you're divorced or not,
that piece holds you together forever.
That holds you as long as the kids forever, but working with the kids until at least the kids are out of the house and doing whatever. In business, there's no need for staying together for blank. Or when I even say just work on a project together, things change, right? So again, I believe that there's different skill sets for startups versus scale-ups versus like large corporations. Most people are not good at even 2 out of 3. There's one area that you're good at, and then you might have a department or 2 that you could really be involved with. So the reality is people will come and go based on where their skill set is best suited. That's the ultimate of what it should be, in my opinion, and it's a time, and hopefully you choose your partners correctly. But when I was in my undergrad, I remember I was taking this course on entrepreneurship or whatever, and there was a stat. It was like 95% of companies have at least one of the founders leave within 5 years. And I said,
really?
I don't believe that. I'm like, there's no way. And I said, ain't happening to us. And then like, lo and behold, it pretty much actually does happen to everyone, because you start with the great intentions and you don't even know what you need when you're starting it up per se. Then you get into the real world. You might have to do some pivots along the way. And all of a sudden, this isn't really what we need. Or, hey, we don't work that great together, or whatever it happens to be. Or it's like, hey, I did great to get us to here, but this is where I'm great at. Someone else needs to go and take it to there.
Yeah, I think it ties back into what we talked about before, as far as as a founder owner, there's a point where, my skill sets are not going to get us past a certain level. Some other person's skill sets will get it to here or way past that. But I think the
hardest part in that, again, is it's hard to realize it until it's too late. For the people that can realize it before it's too late, that's vision. That's visionary.
Yeah.
Like, again, even me knowing with my new company, when is the right time? I don't know. Like, I have someone saying, do it now. In my mind, I'm like, I won't wait as long as I did here, but because now I've kind of learned. But it's still, I don't even have that answer. But
yeah. Okay, let's go back to advisors.
Yes.
You've had an advisory board with your company with Kognitive for how long?
As a formal board, maybe since 2019. So that would be 5 years.
Informal before that?
Informal almost our entire way through. Like, I remember when we were really, in 2008, we had a advisory board meeting. None of them were paid. But we had someone who was the president of Moores. We had founders of MAC Cosmetics. We had
really
one other individual, maybe it was even Marco, I don't even remember. Anyways, we called a meeting, and I remember that because this was right as shit was hitting the fan, 2008, credit crunch, houses going under.
Oh yeah,
cuts, everything. And I remember, and I was really embarrassed with the outcome of the meeting, but was we're kind of hey, we're kind of we got to a point where we were growing, but we were running out of cash. And I've been through business school, so I know all the fundamentals of business, but the outcome of the meeting was your revenue needs to be higher than your expenses.
You're like, damn it, I learned that. I should know that.
Wait, you're telling me the most basic of basic was guys, you need to cut your expenses to where the revenue is higher than your expenses. And the way one of them said it, it was boy, don't I feel like an absolute idiot. And it's like, I should have known this because I was in, business school. That's the basics, the most basics of business.
Yeah, man.
But what happened was that one was like, oh, we're going to go so big. And we had all these people, like these young kids, me being one of them. They're like, oh, we're working on strategy. So we had too many people working on strategy in comparison to billing hours. So like, you could only have X proportion of your team working on strategy.
Yeah.
Because
execution's
these people is what pay the bill. So ultimately, we're like, we got to be executing, not in strategy, so we can pay for ourselves. But anyways, so we had informal advisors through there. I had then at one point 2 separate advisors, one advising me on tech, one advising me on my staffing business. And then eventually we're like, hey, let's bring that together. Let's have one board where we actually meet together. Because I would have 2 separate meetings every month. Meet with you, and then I'd meet with you separately.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I have you to thank for it, because I think we at Brand Boulevard, there was the first year starting January, we had a formal advisory board, and I think you were one of a couple people I called. I'm like, Josh, you do this,
right?
like,
exactly.
And you gave me sort of the roadmap and experience, and because again, it's when you haven't done it, is how much do you pay people?
Right.
What's the cadence? What do you ask from them? What are expectations on you when putting this together? So,
well, I'd be interested from your perspective. Can you answer questions?
Yeah, I can. We can do whatever we want.
What has been the greatest benefit to you of having an advisory board?
Oh my gosh. Well, we have a shared advisor, Marco, who, and one of my biggest takeaways from our conversation about the board was you don't have to go and fill 5 seats or 3 seats. There's 2 individuals for us. It was Marco and Chuck that really had the skill sets that we wanted that we didn't have to bring them in. So the learning experience has been incredible. I mean, for both of the advisors on a board, it's time in business is 20 years longer, and experience running larger companies. I mean, that was and when I say large, like a lot larger, billions instead of millions, or hundreds of millions instead of millions. So, I think of wisdom, experience. And just there's this sense of humbleness where I think getting the right individuals can bring so much to the table, where they ask really good questions, they poke holes in things, which kind of feels shitty sometimes. But, having now a CEO in place, it's fun to watch more of the experience of them, grilling Mark and going, okay, well, hey, let's poke a few holes. And like, he doesn't always like it, but, and you have to go back to, hey, there's so much experience that these people have lived through it, seen it. Mm-hmm. Not that they have all the answers, but they can ask really good questions. So, it's been invaluable for us, I think, as an organization. And I've learned a lot just to, similar to what you mentioned, is how to act on a board. How do you conduct yourself, not just in a meeting, but what does that role involve? How do you become more of a coach instead of a mentor, and a coach instead of a doer and a performer? So. It's been. I
would agree with that. Like, I find, to me, the 2 things, and again, it's the wisdom, the experience. I think learning how to be on a board. I think the wisdom and experience, because they just have answers that you don't. And then the other thing that I've found has been really great is the confidence and tough decisions to move forward in one way. So there's multiple examples where, whether it was starting this Optimy business or making a bigger investment here or doing something over there, where it was like, when we talk it through, they're like, yeah, you should do it. It's like, if I didn't have a board to run it by and say that, would I still be sitting and waiting like, oh, I don't know if I should do that or not? So I feel like I've probably done more or taken some good risks and actually moved forward with those.
Yeah,
I have that
for sure. And I think there's that accountability piece too, where as an organization, if you say something one quarter or 1 month and you haven't done that, there's going to be a lot of hard questions, and it just forces you to move faster through things. So, I mean, I encourage it. What do you think is the right size to start at to create a board?
For a board, so, I don't think there's a one size fits all. So I think it depends on how big your company is, and then what needs your company has. So what I mean is your first board and you're already a $50-100 million company, that answer's different than if you're like a startup just starting up. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and it's maybe informal, like you had at the start.
If you're a really small company and you don't have a big budget or whatever, you probably start with 1, because that's ultimately where we started. So once we had 1, then we had 2, but they were separate. Then we brought them together. Then we added 1 more. Then we added 1 more. Now we're currently at 3. we're going to add, or yeah, 3, but one of them is now more informal.
Okay.
So, and we're going to add one more. That 3 are informal meetings, 1's there whenever I need it. So what I'd say is, depending on your need and where there's a skill gap within the founding or leadership team, you want to bring expertise on to help you in areas that you're not that great at. I don't think you need someone that is great at what you're great at per se. Now, if you want business expertise or certain things like that, even if they have the same expertise as you in what type of business, but they bring in business expertise, then I would bring someone on. But I'd say as little as 1, and based on your budget, I'd say, there are boards that are 6, 8, like if you're publicly traded, it's 12, 14. So
Sure.
What I'd say is the reality is most mid-sized businesses are probably 3 to 4. When you start getting larger, they start getting bigger, and then it could be as little as 1. And I would start with 1 if you're a smaller company.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
One thing to add to that I've learned is that I think good boards want to be involved, and like when I say working boards, it's they want to be involved in not just the people like the CEO and the owners or founders or a combination. They want to be in working with the leadership team, taking the skill sets they have that can be implemented. So
100%.
Get so much from that.
100%.
Okay, Optimy. Why did you start a tech company? And how hard is
My
it to...
coach asks me that every day.
Start with that. Why'd you start it?
I see it as very different than what I do in the other business. So when COVID hit and retail was like completely shut down, and we're just like, and we watched Vern Harnish do an event around COVID. Vern is scaling up, right? Yep. And he's like, do a SWOT on your industry of how COVID is going to impact its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we did that. And it was like, coming out of that was like, e-commerce was going to grow, so physical retail was going to shrink, and that posed a threat, and there was an opportunity. Like, what was the opportunity? Could we bring online this human face-to-face sales experience, but can we bring that to the website? That was the opportunity. It's like, hey, e-commerce is growing. All the chatbots suck. They don't help you. There's an opportunity to bring real humans to assist you online, just like they do in store. And our business was like shut down for 3 months. So we're like, yep, let's go do that. We started talking to people, including our board. They're like, oh, great idea. Get more momentum. Talk to prospective clients. I like it. I'd sign up. Okay, let's start getting going. And then just snowballed from an idea, start running it by smart people, get feedback, run it by more, start selling it, get clients. Okay, let's get going. And that was kind of how it evolved.
One of the roles you took on early on, or early-ish, was raising money.
Yes.
And at that time, it got really friggin' hard to raise money because
failed.
interest rates changed, right?
we failed. We failed at that.
What did you?
Boy.
I remember you doing that. What was the biggest learning experience from that for you?
I hate raising money. That was basically it. I've never raised money before, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong to raise money. I hated that process. I didn't like who I was in the meetings. I didn't like being scrutinized the way that they are, and I just felt like, for me, who I am, I naturally don't feel comfortable unless I'm the best at everything. And there's no way that every little metric that you have is the best. But like, I squirm when there's one metric. Whoa, what about this metric over here? I really did not enjoy that process. And when I'm raising capital, I'm not working on my business. I'm working on raising capital. So how much time am I spending with investors when I should be spending them with my team and my clients, my partners? Yeah. So that's what I learned. I'm not suggesting raising capital is not a great thing. I think companies need money in order to excel. What I always learned in business school, I was probably in that same class that I was talking about with the 97% or 95% of founders, what companies, well, at least one founder leaves in 5 years, the basics is like self-fund it, debt funding, then equity. Like raising money is the most expensive form of capital. So it's like, do it at the last resort.
Sure.
Not a first resort.
Especially early money. It's going to cost you the most.
Most people today like the glamour of posting on LinkedIn, we raised this much money. So they've all been about that. And I never fell for that. I always was like, nope, I'm not going to. Now, I've had coaches who'd be like, you're screwing up. Like, you should be raising money, whatever, but this is just how I've done it today. So I think that there's the right balance. But yeah, I'm not saying it's not for everyone, but I don't do great with it. And I've also heard a lot. Listen, there's probably some stories of great investors who made a massive difference, but there's probably 4 or 5 to 1 of where people complain about investors versus getting value.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you self-funded this project,
Yeah.
and you just invested a ton of resources. Mm-hmm. What are you excited about?
Right now,
Other than it making money back for you.
right. I don't even think about the making money back.
Okay, good.
Honestly, I don't. But I don't want to invest more money per year than where I'm at right now. So I'm at my cap of like where I want to. So what I'm most excited about is a new product that we're launching changes the way that companies handle incoming leads. So to me, I've always had like, hey, flipping an industry on its forehead per se, like on its head of like how things are done. Here's the way it was done. Here's how we could do it differently. And to me, what we're doing is, and it's a wholesome change in how things are done. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to feel that radical, but right now, all companies in all industries, they take leads in.
Give me an example of say,
so right now we work in the automotive industry as our predominant area of focus.
Okay.
So they get leads coming in either because people fill out forms on their website, or they go into like Auto Trader and they click
I'm
out
shopping
form,
for a car at 10 at night.
Fill out my name, reach out to me or whatever. And then they reach out at a later date, right? The sales team gets in the CRM and they call out to the customers. Only half of those call outs ever get responded to. So meaning I've already gone out, I've done my research, I fill out a form of interest, and
half of those people don't get a call back.
No, they'll get a call back. They won't respond. They won't answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Meaning I'm already on.
They moved on.
I don't want to talk to a salesperson, whatever it happens to be. But they filled out a form to be contacted.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So half the leads are garbage. They never speak to them again. And in fact, they're worse than garbage.
And people pay for these leads.
Oh, they pay for these leads. And the other thing is why it's even worse than just not reaching out to the leads is now you have salespeople spending time and money and energy trying to reach out to someone that's never going to respond.
Is it the time?
So there's a time, there's a mental frustration of reaching out.
So
and
when
you don't know which leads are going to respond or not. So you have to reach out to all of them.
For sure. So I've done this. I've filled out, I'm interested, I'm a buyer. Yeah. And I go cold because I either don't want to talk to a sales rep, I've moved on and got more information, I reach out to the next company or the next 3.
So what we're doing is simple. Rather than fill out a form and we're going to contact you at a later date, we bring the salesperson right onto the website, right then and there, right when you fill out the form. And they give you the help you need right there. So again, with the proliferation of chat, and we provide chat, you could answer people's questions, but we also have the ability to talk through voice and video right from a website with that customer. So now it's like a phone call or a video call. So the idea here is the old way of doing it is sending it to CRM because there wasn't chat, there wasn't means of interacting right from the web. So that was the right thing. Go to CRM and we'll reach out. But the reality is if chat was there right from when web was created, no one would have ever built, go to the CRM and reach back out. They just say, we're going to help you. The change management of it is customers prefer because they get their answers immediately in the way that they want, right? And I'm shopping now. I want to talk now, not when I'm with my family or I'm in a business meeting when you're calling me back.
Yeah.
Salespeople are currently in the mindset that, well, when it hits the CRM, I'll reach out. So they don't build their schedules off of the customer. They're still building their schedules off of, well, I have in my calendar that I'm going to reach out to the CRM at this time today. So you have to change the way customers expect that, oh, I'm going to get an answer right away. You got to change the way salespeople think, which is like, hey, when a customer reaches out, I need to inconvenience myself because when I inconvenience the customer, half of them don't respond to me. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So there's a change management from our, process oriented. And the way that happens is you show them a win, you connect them live. And like, how did that work? Oh, that worked out really great. Great. So the next time it comes in, don't ignore it. Like, let's prioritize it. It's like, oh, but like I was filling out a contract for another customer. Agreed. Could that have waited like 10 minutes for you to speak?
No one cares, because we live in a world where if I'm looking at something, I want answers right now.
I want it now. And unless you're with a customer right now in person, nothing should be more important than the customer online, because that's where everyone's making their decision these days. They're making their decisions online. So you need to support them online.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What are the top few industries that this is going to impact? Your software.
So, well, right now we're in automotive, and that's where we're mostly focused. We have hypotheses on home services, B2B services. It will for sure. Basically,
so higher ticket items, higher value.
Any item that basically is sold through a salesperson. So that typically is more complex, higher priced items. But if you think about any industry where you interact with a salesperson in order to make a purchase, this will impact it.
Wow. So you're eliminating that friction.
But the key thing here is we got to start with one industry, and we might not even get beyond this industry. There's so much opportunity there. So this is what we need to kind of work through.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are doing well, and I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Talk to me about travel. You did like a 7-week hiatus, which I thought was really cool and bold. Tell me about that trip a little bit, and what's some upcoming travel for you with the family?
Well, that's a good question. Well, see, it's actually very different now that I have kids. But what happened was I was engaged. I ended that engagement. And I was speaking with a friend. He's like, you know what? You should really travel. Like, it helps clear your head. It helps, like, broaden your horizon, whatever. So I'm like, fine. So I ended up booking a 7-week trip.
Like a sabbatical.
Which is basically six months later is when the trip actually happened, right? Maybe my friend gave me advice 3 months after. By the time I planned it to the day, it's like, okay, it's going to be over the Christmas holidays, whatever. That's already some work not missed because, you know, we're basically shut down around then anyways. But to me, that trip was a healing trip. I need to heal from relationship. I also had earlier on in the year brought on Eugene. I had exited a couple business partners, like between partners of business partners and fiance and this and that, and all the work and all the stress and everything I needed. It was basically like
ready for a cleanse.
It was that. So I feel like I was able to spend time with myself. I traveled on my own. I was in groups for a good chunk of it, but half of it I was with groups, half of it I was literally on my own. And you're never fully on your own because there's always other people around and you're interacting with other people. But it was immaculate. Like, it was absolutely cleared my head, got me in a better space, turned me around from some of where I went and where I was going. And it was amazing. I mean, I went to a bunch of different countries and trying different foods, exploring different worlds, being with yourself, making your own decisions is really great. Because even today, when I make business decisions, I got to worry about my clients, my team members, if I have vendors. Like, there's always
a lot of responsibility.
When you travel on your own, what do I want to do right now? I'm going to go do it.
Yeah, and you can be super selfish.
Be super selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have any other considerations. It's what do I want? It's making decisions for me. It was great.
So, young family, what does travel look like now, if any? I kind of know the answer.
Business retreats, yeah. So, like, for example, my wife and I, we have a 10-month-old right now. Maybe 2 months ago, we went to New York for a weekend. It was our first time away from our baby. It was like 3 days, right? We normally go away every summer. We did not go away this summer. We decided to stay up at her family cottage because we got a little baby, and it's like, it's just not the same. You can't go to the dinners. You can't walk as far. Baby's got a nap in the middle of the day. So we didn't even do anything. Like, once the baby's old enough, and we're trying to have more kids. So then, you know, whenever our kids are, like, either if we don't have more kids, when this baby's old enough, or when they're all old enough. And again, it could be a year old, whatever. Once they're enough where grandparents could take care of them, we'll travel again to, like, cool trips. But in that interim, like, I wouldn't put a 10-month-old and say, here, grandparents, keep the kid for a week. Like, it's a lot to ask for.
Oh, for sure.
A couple days, yeah, but like a week, it's a little much. So I still love travel, and that's the thing. Is like my staycation this summer was not very relaxing. I mean, I golfed every day, and golf isn't relaxing.
No,
okay?
not
so
always.
I golfed every day. More frustrating than relaxing, right?
Then you come home and take care of a
And I got home
9-month-old.
And I took care of the baby the entire time. Wonderful, but by no means is it like, it's joyful, but it's not relaxing. When I travel, I feel like I could be fully relaxed. I'm exploring something. I can enjoy it. I could see the way cultures are. I can taste food. I can interact with people. And there's this element of being out of your element, seeing something new that is the relaxing part for me. That's where I could get relaxed and kind of just feel more at ease.
Give it time.
Yeah.
It's it'll come. Is there anything on do you have a bucket list, first of all?
I did. So interestingly enough, the first kind of like coaching event I ever went to was with an individual. It was like, create your top 50 goals list for your life. And I did that, and I was checking off. I was crossing physically every year. I would cross off items.
Okay.
And what do I want to do this year?
Knocking them off.
And then crossing them off. I don't do that anymore. I don't think there's anything per se on my bucket list right now. I mean, there's things I want to accomplish from a work perspective, but otherwise, I don't really have like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like, even at one point, I'm like, oh, I want to go to like X number of countries or see all the continents, whatever. I'm like, I don't care if I see all the continents. Don't get me wrong. At some point, my curiosity will be like, yeah, maybe I will want to go to Antarctica. I don't know. Maybe I never will, and I don't really care one way or another. Like, there was a point where if I want to go to Antarctica and the schedule makes itself available, and it's that time, but like, there's places I want to go to above Antarctica right now, or Australia, that there's interest. At some point I might want to, but I don't want to now. And I'm not going to go there because my bucket list says I need to go to all the continents of the world.
You've sort of let go of that piece.
Yeah.
My last question for you is, what advice would you give? Usually I ask, what advice would you give yourself like 10 years younger, but what advice would you give to someone, early, first couple of years in business, grinding it out, go back to like 2008, 2009, 2010. What do you share with them to help them?
Oh, and just more like
advice or experiences
around entrepreneurship, or just business in general?
Just around like getting through it on some of the early years.
Well, I guess what seems to come out on my LinkedIn post the most is keep your feet moving forward. Don't stop. That's basically it. Now, you might change the directions you want to go in, but like, if any success that you want in life, if you're going to find a success of a meaningful success, I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anyone I know that has found a meaningful success without putting in the effort. So when people feel tired, they feel stressed, it's like, great, that means you're probably on a path of some sort of moving in that direction. Because if it was really easy, you probably could do more than you think you're doing. And it's like, by the way, this stress is never going to go. Like, don't get me wrong, you could find, there's peaks and valleys of the stress, but like, we all have stresses at all areas of life. Like, to have no stress in your life is probably really boring. It would be like my stint at one summer job. I was bored to death. Like, there was no stress.
Yeah, there's no fulfillment in it.
Exactly, and I'd rather have that. So to me, it's always about like reflecting on what's working and what's not, being open to trying something different, but always keeping your feet forward. Always keep your feet moving. And again, which direction is that could change, right? And if you look at your career and what you've been through, I mean, from how you started Brand in the first place, from when you were working and you guys left. I don't remember if it was you left or the company imploded or whatever, but you left. And then you started Brand and where that is, and then how it's gotten to, and then bringing on Mark and where you are now, and even where it's going to go. There's been stresses along the way, but you kept moving your feet forward. And at some point, you probably be like, I don't know how I got here, and I never even envisioned this of where I'm at right now. Because I bet you even right now and where you're at, you're like, I wouldn't have envisioned this.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's such simple but great advice.
And it's very hard to do because as things get difficult and people will be like, you shouldn't be doing this, or why are you not doing this? But like, I feel like longevity for me has been really helpful. I've had people be like, you should have left Cognitive. And I didn't. And we're having huge success. And part of it is we just stuck through it all. Like, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah,
so
resilience.
What it looks like today is different than maybe what it did, but there's also looks a lot similar, right? So depending on what perspective you have on it, but keep moving forward.
I love that. And I love your point about you can't get away from stress. I remember probably 5 years ago, I was trying to get away from stress and pull myself out of situations. But the reality is that it will always be there in family and business, and anyone in the world is going to have stress. But the difference is your outlook on it, your attitude towards it, how you handle it, and resilience and time can help with that often.
And I think that is it. Like, if you're too stressed, I would say is keep moving your legs forward. It doesn't have to be in that direction. Something needs to change. How do you handle it? How do you deal with it? How do you look at it? What's your role within it to make it that you don't feel that way? Because I don't think it's sustainable to be like at this extreme stress for too long. I think people go through stresses, but just because you're at that extreme stress doesn't mean quit, but it might mean approach it differently. It might mean get some mental help, and not in a bad way mental health. I believe everyone could use therapists, coaches, whatever, but like something about what about you causes this situation, causes it stressful. Maybe you need to make an internal change, right? Maybe you need to role change. Maybe it's just, it will pass with time. I don't know, but yeah.
Wise words from a young man. Buddy, I could talk to you all day, and I always get a ton from our conversations, and I really appreciate our friendship and just all the time we spent and the years to come. So
thank you for having me, Chris.
Buddy, it was my pleasure.
Glad to be on.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
My
My pleasure. All right, dude.